Hello, and welcome to the Weeb Years, a retrospective revisit to the Western anime boom of the 90s and 2000s. My name is Beanie, and with me today, it's MaeMae.
It's MaeMae! Hey, everybody.
Welcome back, MaeMae.
Thanks so much. I'm so happy to be here.
MaeMae, your first official, quote-unquote, Weeb Years episode? Listeners will remember MaeMae from a couple episodes we did before. We did Chobits and Darker Than Black, but those were episodes that we recorded way back before. They were like demo episodes, basically. But you're here for realsies this time.
It's for real? Am I for real, though? I'm not sure.
I conjured you from my imagination. You're actually a tulpa.
Oh, that actually works so well with my aesthetic.
MaeMae is officially on the roster for the podcast. Probably won't be showing up quite as often as Laurel because MaeMae has an incredibly hectic schedule, but as often as possible, we will be enjoying your presence.
As often as possible, because I do really enjoy being here.
And to celebrate MaeMae's triumphant return, we're doing a sort of sequel to the Chobits episode, actually, because today we are looking at, I almost said Angel Beats again, Angelic Layer.
It's okay. When I went to go watch it, I had to double check 3 times that I was to watch Angelic Layer.
No, Laurel specifically said that if I don't let her be on the Angelic Layer episode, and Angel Beats, fuck. God damn it. Laurel specifically told me that if they weren't allowed on the Angel Beats episode, they would be upset.
Well, I would never want to upset another co-host that isn't you, so.
Motherfucker. So yeah, Angelic Layer, it began as a manga published in Shonen Ace magazine from 1999 to 2001, written by Clamp, who were already famous for works like Cardcaptor Sakura and Magic Knight Rayearth. Definitely gonna have you on for those too. I think you're just gonna be typecast as the Clamp host.
I'm okay with that. I enjoy their stuff for the most part, and I'm happy to be the Clamp-coded character.
In 2001, the manga was adapted into an anime by Studio Bones, and it was actually only their second work.
Remind me, what else does Studio Bones do?
Pretty much everything important you've ever heard of. Full Metal Alchemist, Soul Eater.
Oh, okay. That
Let me
tracks.
see what else we got on here. My Hero Academia, Mob Psycho 100, Space Dandy, Oron, Darker Than Black, the other thing we covered.
No.
Wolf's Rain, Aruaka 7, Rasifan, just some of the biggest things of, I was going to say the 2000s, but really anime in general. They're doing Gachiakuta, I think is how you pronounce it, which is airing right now. That's something I need to hurry up and watch because it looks really cool.
It sounds really cool.
Let's see. The anime was licensed for North America by Madman Entertainment and got tossed around to a handful of different companies, most recently Sentai Filmworks, who put out Blu-rays. But after 2022, the license was lost, meaning sadly the show isn't available for streaming at the moment. Supposedly, you can find it on Amazon Prime in certain regions, but I couldn't find anything concrete about that. Yabeen does not have, what's the thing that YouTubers are always selling you?
VPNs.
Yes. Yabeen does not have a VPN.
We should probably fix that, because the MaeMae doesn't have one either.
MaeMae, what is your experience with Angelic Layer?
Okay, I'll be super real. I have seen a poster of this show, and that was the only thing I had ever heard, seen, or enjoyed before I watched this.
So barely anything.
Absolutely nothing, pretty much. Other than maybe a note here or there in a doll forum in like 2010-ish.
That would make sense.
Yeah.
This was something that I definitely knew of for a very long time. I didn't think I had ever seen this before, but I guess I must have watched at least the first episode because it was really familiar. Like, I was convinced going into this I had not actually watched it, but I kept remembering parts from the first couple episodes, so I guess I must have tried to at some point way back when and just forgot.
No, I got nothing on this one. I went in completely blind. I'm not sure how I feel about it though, like going in blind on this one. I kind of wish I had a little more
You wish you had a bit of a primer?
Yes, I wish I had more of a primer going into this one. I think it would have increased my enjoyment.
That makes sense. So Angelic Layer follows 12-year-old Misaki Suzuhara, who's just moved to Tokyo to live with her aunt since her mother has been gone for the last 7 years. As soon as she arrives in the city, she meets a mysterious weirdo who calls himself Ichan, who introduces her to the hot new toy, Angelic Layer, a super advanced game where players can build custom dolls that can be controlled via brainwaves to fight each other for sport.
That was a mouthful.
Misaki builds herself a doll named Hikaru and enters a local tournament in hopes of making her way to the top in order to face the national champion, who she saw fighting on a big screen when she first got off the train. I am actually so upset that Angelic Layer doesn't exist in real life. This whole thing is rad as fuck.
It is so cool. I love, like, the rules, the setup, the everything. The fact that it is a doll that you can carry around and then play with, not only as, like, a regular toy, but also in this fantastical battle simulation thing, is the coolest thing.
The internal logic of the game is also just really well designed. Like, one of the many rightful complaints of Sword Art Online is that even if you take away all the terrible writing and characters and blah blah blah, if you just look at the game that Sword Art Online is set in, it's a terribly designed game. The Angelic Layer game actually seems very well designed, like how players can build their angels for different fighting styles and combat types and such.
That's one of the reasons I was a little disheartened to find that the fandom wasn't as big as I had hoped it would be. Simply because this game is so cool, I feel confident that someone could do an actual video game version. Super duper easy.
I was really disappointed to find out that there weren't any Angelic Layer video games.
Actually, I found one, but it was never translated.
Oh, wait, what? Okay, was it like a fighting game or was it like a visual novel?
You know, I didn't actually get that far. I was so disappointed, but I did see the sprites and they were very cute.
Ooh. Also, yeah, just as a note, like, dolls powered by a young girl's imagination is some primo clamp bullshit.
It is absolutely primo clamp bullshit, and I eat that shit up.
That being said, in universe, it is absolutely wild that they're trying to suggest that there's stereotypes around Angelic Layer and it being just for girls just because it's got dolls, when said dolls are having fucking kung fu battles.
That was a weird dichotomy that they were trying to play off.
Like, there's a couple of boys that play it, but it is incredibly the minority. I think there's like 2. Literally a couple.
Yeah, literally a couple. But how could any boy say no to violence? Like, as a concept in a video game? Especially at this time period. Like, that's the only way you could hook people into games for a while is, it's so incredibly violent, and that's what makes it super popular. They're literally just beating the crap out of each other, and it looks amazing.
At one point, they actually introduced the idea that girls are better at Angelic Layer than boys, because girls see dolls as their friends, while boys only see them as toys. And that is such an interesting worldview to put forward. I really don't know how I feel about that.
It's complicated, because on the one hand, I can see, as someone who was, this was late 90s, 2001-ish. I was very close to Misaki in age. So I could totally see that girls are better at Angelic Layer than boys, simply because they think it's their friend and not just something to play with. Because there's an inherent magic in dolls that I think this is a whole thing. I could talk about this for a million years. The psychology of having a doll that is your friend or having a doll that is some kind of emotional attachment to you is absolutely a thing, especially to someone like me that really enjoys dolls and customizing them and looking at them and all of that fun stuff. But to say that it's gender-based I don't like that. I didn't like that aspect at all.
Yeah. And to clarify, in the scene in the show where they're saying that whole thing about like, girls see them as their friends and that's why they're better at it, they present it as more nebulous of a concept, but I think they're trying to specify, because you are controlling them through like brain waves and the power of your emotions, they're saying the more connection you have to the doll emotionally, the better you're going to be at controlling them and playing the game, which that makes sense in the rules that they are presenting you.
Actually, yeah, that does make all the sense. And since it is your brainwaves, and your brainwaves would assumedly get stronger or more potent with more emotion behind them. I definitely see that.
Having to gender it is a little meh, but also I want to give it a pass because, especially considering the time period this came out in, it is kind of nice to see something like this prioritizing girls.
When framed that way, yes, wholeheartedly agree.
I'm okay with reverse sexism, is apparently what I'm saying.
Jeez, Beanie.
Now, I want to say this preemptively before we go any further. I enjoyed my time with this anime a lot. I won't get too deep into my final verdict until the end when we do the whole would you recommend it today bit, but overall, I think this is a good show with a lot of merit. I want to say this now before I start going off on my long list of complaints.
I would like to mirror those sentiments. I enjoyed my time. There are a lot of good things, but I have a laundry list of complaints.
Yeah, first off, this is not a good dub.
No.
Performances are all over the place, and characters will frequently have their names mispronounced, or even wilder, someone will pronounce a name both correctly and incorrectly in the same scene. There's a lot of, going back and forth on whether or not characters will say Chan or Chan, like Misaki-chan, Misaki-chan. The biggest culprit of this is poor Miss Kaede, who in the dub is pronounced Miss Katie?
Yes, it is Miss Katie, and as someone who is hard of hearing, this was incredibly difficult for me in general because I also did not have subtitles to tell me what they were actually saying. So yeah, bad dubs mean inaccessibility.
Yeah, I want to be nice considering the time period that this got dubbed, but it's still not good.
No, and that was probably my chief complaint. Like, if I only got to complain about one thing, it would be the dub. But I was very excited to see that Misaki was voiced by the same voice actress that does Chiyo-chan in Azumaka, whom I love with my whole heart.
Yeah, there was a couple of decent performances. I think weirdly, the highlight of the dub was probably Ichan.
I'm going to agree with you.
Not that his performance was good necessarily, but you can tell how much fun he's having as he records, which does, even if the performance itself isn't great, it does make it more enjoyable to listen to when you can just picture him on the other side of that mic booth just having a fucking blast.
I could definitely say that Ichan is or would have been a fun character to play for sure.
I will say I share the sentiment with this that I had back when I was talking to Laurel about The Girl Who Leapt Through Time, which now that I say that out loud, I think this episode might be coming out before that one. I'm not sure.
Uh-oh.
But I don't think the effort we put in trying to find the dub was actually worth it. I kind of wish we had just done the sub.
On this one, I desperately wish the sub had been available. And in a weird turn of events, when I got to, I believe it was episode 16, maybe 17 or 18, I forget, where I was watching it, just suddenly had the sub and nothing else, and that was really cool.
Oh.
I'd be real mad otherwise, but it worked out pretty well.
That didn't happen for me. I watched the whole thing dubbed.
Nope, I had I believe it was 2 episodes, one of which was the beach episode, and yeah, I got to listen to the sub, and I was a lot happier listening to the sub.
Now, Misaki is mainly motivated to play Angelic Layer because when she saw the champion fighting on TV, she was moved by how such a small fighter could win over a much larger opponent. And we're told that Misaki has this complex about being so small herself, so it's like a motivational thing, right? The thing is, we never actually see Misaki struggle with her size at all. There's a lot of, I hate being small, but as far as we're shown, it's not actually an issue for her.
We see it once when she is performing a sport in school, and then she talks about not being able to do her best in sports performances at school. But overall, she doesn't really, we never see her actually struggle with being small, but it seems to be a core tenet of her personality with how important it is. It's
like a big thing. Like, you get the impression she has some kind of height-based trauma.
Yeah,
that we never
it seems
see what
a lot
it
more
is.
serious.
And I feel like there could have been something there. There could have been something to it. I just don't do it well.
Well, and even in comparison to her classmates, she's not radically smaller. I will compare this to her voice sibling is what I'm going to call it. That's a terrible name, but it's fine. Chiyo-chan in Azumanga is very much smaller because she is younger than the other girls in her grade. But Misaki doesn't appear to have that problem.
Now, that aside, Misaki herself is absolutely fucking adorable.
She is the cutest. Oh my god.
She's a sweet little baby, and her design is so cute. And Hikaru's design is also great. So many of the angels have legit fantastic designs. I'm actually super into this show's visuals.
I adore every single design in the show. That is, thank you, Clamp. Thank you. You've blessed us again with more insanely gorgeous everything.
What's really interesting about that is I actually found an interview that was done with Clamp where, among a few things, they talked about their time working on Angelic Layer. And apparently they were specifically trying to use a much simpler art style for this in the manga than what they would usually do, because something about they wanted it to be more marketable, I think. I think that's what it was. But the idea that, oh, this is them not trying as hard is crazy.
It is bonkers. I will say, though, I feel like this style does feel, especially when it comes to Clamp, it does feel like it's specifically made for a younger audience. Someone in my house mentioned the similarity between the character design and Pokemon, which I thought was kind of cool, because Pokemon is known for having a much more straightforward, simple style than most other anime.
Something of note, by the way, talking about the character designs, notoriously, despite being a show based around dolls, the toy line and merchandise for this show is shockingly small, and there were only ever 2 dolls made based on the show. Do you want to guess what 2 dolls were produced?
Well, if it's shocking, then it's probably not Hikaru.
Well, shocking that there was so little for something that seems so merchandisable. I will. It's not. This one isn't hard to guess. There is a doll of Hikaru, but try and guess who the other one is.
Is it the pretty ninja one?
No.
No? Oh. Is it Blanche?
It's Shirahime.
What? No way.
Yeah, there's only 2 Angelic Layer dolls, and it's Hikaru and Shirahime.
That's super interesting. I don't get me wrong, I adore her. I think her design is gorgeous. I love her clothing choices. I don't want to spoil anything, but that was very cool. So I can definitely see why they'd pick her, but also, what a choice.
Sai and Shirahime were sort of the final bosses of that one part of the tournament, so I kind of see why.
I could see that. And I feel like the next logical choice would be Athena, but I don't feel like her design is marketable enough, despite being so popular in the actual universe.
Mm-hmm. So, actually, I've been making a lot of my point. Do you have any specific points that you would like to make? We're kind of on the criticism train, but if you have a positive you want to point out...
Oh, no, I just want to... I would love to simmer on these character designs just a little bit longer. They carry the show, I think, for multiple reasons, mostly because they are so freaking cool. Like, all of them are really, really cool. I don't recall a single one that I was like, man, that's ugly.
Who was your favorite doll?
How could you possibly expect me to choose? Are you gonna make fun of me when I say that it's Wizard?
No, because my answer is actually Hikaru.
Yep, no, I'll take it. They're so cool. Like, it's so incredibly difficult. I would love to, rank them. Maybe one day on a stream I will rank them. So if you're not into the doll scene, you might not know about BJDs. BJDs are ball jointed dolls, but you can get, a blank doll, just exactly like Angelic Layer, which is really cool. But I went shopping, and I'm still deciding on what base I would build my Angelic Layer fan doll, I guess. But I did spend my angel. I spent some time shopping, so maybe I'll have an answer for you, so we can all build our own dolls, our own angels.
I think that might be another reason why Hikaru is my favorite, because if this was a real thing and I was to build my own angel, I would probably go for a similar fighting style as Hikaru.
Ooh, small and strong. I love it. I think in contrast, I would probably go for a heavyweight, because the reason I even know what style Well, I would go to, because my first thought was, who do I main in Smash? And my answer was Bowser. So probably a heavy body, thick, hard punches sort of deal.
See, I was always someone who abused how overpowered Meta Knight was in Brawl.
Oh, you're one of those. But no, I just I don't mind being slow if I can hit hard. So
going back to talk about the show itself a little bit more, it's your typical tournament-style battle series / sports anime, kind of. A bunch of fights sandwiched between downtime where the characters can train and have their sad backstories revealed, etc. Rather famously, though, Angelic Layer actually focuses on the bonds and dynamics between the characters more than it does the actual battles. That's something that you see talked about a lot when you do research into the show, and what was one of its selling points at the time was it was a lot more character focused.
Definitely. And you get a really fantastic sense of that as the show goes on. The characters stick around, which is really cool. You don't really see that in a lot of more for boys entertainment. Usually you see the fighter and, they're gone now and you never see them again. But everybody sticks around and you get to meet them and get to know them a little better.
Speaking of for boys entertainment, it is worth noting, again, that despite this being so, girl targeted and, girls are better playing the game and all that, this is a shonen series that was published in a shonen magazine. So this is ostensibly targeted at boys.
I didn't know that it was I didn't know that it was published in a shonen magazine. That makes sense. That also explains why my initial reaction to the format was very poor. I'm not really a shonen type person. I'm very much more interested in emotional ties and different styles of action.
It also, if we want to be realistic, is probably a big part of the reason why the series didn't actually do so well, because target audience does mean a lot, as much as we maybe wish it didn't. And so something like this in a shonen-focused magazine, unfortunately, I can kind of see why it didn't pop off as hard as maybe it deserved to.
And with the messaging that we talked about earlier, in that girls are inherently better at this game and boys have a failing of some kind, boys don't want to read that. I wouldn't want to try to read a story where someone was putting down my gender in any way. That's a box I'm not going to open past that statement. But still, that marketed, the audience that it's marketed towards probably didn't appreciate that too much.
Here's a good question I just thought of, though. Do we think that it would have done better if it was published in a shoujo magazine? Because then you gotta wonder, do we think that a battle manga of this formula would do well in a shoujo-targeted demographic? And again, in no way saying that, girls don't like battle series. That's obviously not true. But talking about just how much demographics can affect popularity and targeting to the right demographics, if we think that it didn't do well in a shonen magazine because it was too, focused on character dynamics and emotions and not enough on punching people, do we think that it would do well in a shoujo magazine despite how often people get punched?
I do think the level of people getting punched is high enough for shonen. I think the format is good enough there, but it's such a hard thing to even speculate on. Would it have done better here? Would it have done better there? But with its level of success, I feel like maybe they should have at least advertised in shoujo manga or shoujo magazines, because it's kind of disappointing in that way.
Yeah. Other major characters that we meet as the show goes on are Misaki's classmates Kotaro and Tamayo, as well as Kotaro's little sister Hatoko, who despite being only 5 years old is one of the top-ranked Angelic Layer players in the country. She is the deuce of Suzuka, who we mentioned earlier, which also deuce is just what they call people who play Angelic Layer.
Which I took a lot of issue until I saw it written out, Deux, I think.
Yeah, I think they're supposed to be pronouncing it Deus, Deus Ex Machina. But the dub is not great.
No, that was something that was bothering me so much, because I was like, why are they called deuces? Why are they two? What does this mean? Am I missing something? And then I finally saw it written out, and then I was like, oh, that makes so much more sense.
So, Deus, if we pronounce it like it's spelled, if I remember correctly, that's Latin for God. Which,
yes.
That's fun thematically, because it's God is sending down the angel to fight. That's neat. I don't hate Deuce also, though, because Deuce, to And you could argue that that has something to do with, like, the bond between the two of them, the player and their doll. There's something to that.
I think I won't fight you on it, but that doesn't mean I have to like it. Because Deus is so much cooler, and it sounds better, and the angel connection is there, and it just works better.
It's definitely not as good, but I could see an argument for it.
I'll allow it.
Some more characters we get introduced to. You've got Ojiro and his angel wizard, who was the runner-up in the Nationals 2 years in a row, and Sai and Kaede, a pair of friends who fight with their dolls Shirahime and Blanche, respectively. Ojiro is a soft love interest for Misaki.
I'm so conflicted on that. But my boy's got problems. He's pretty, but he's got problems.
Yeah, I don't want to go into it because it is kind of heavy spoilers, but there's a lot going on there. I also, real quick, need to give a shout out to Ringo, who, along with playing Angelic Layer, is also a famous pop star, and she is absolutely my favorite. She's just a goofy little weirdo. Not really a lot to say. She's just silly and I like her.
She's so silly. I love the support that she gives Misaki. The definition of like girl power, and I was living for their relationship.
Imagine going to like a Pokemon TCG tournament and you sit down and suddenly across the table from you is fucking who's a popular person that the kids like these days? Chaperone. I'll say Chaperone.
Yeah, Chaperone sits down and joins you for a Pokemon battle is what we're looking at here.
Chaperone is sitting across from you, you beat her, and then suddenly she's just showing up at your house, bringing you gifts and being like, hey, we're friends now.
Yep, no, and she's giving you all the support any friend ever would.
I don't know if you're going to agree with me on this next part, but I don't think I have ever watched a show that fluctuates in quality so hard.
No, I'm fully inclined to agree with you. What comment are you going to make about it?
I don't want to nitpick anything too specific because, again, I don't want to get into spoilers, but 1 minute I would be sitting there angry about some dumb plot beat or stupid character motivation, and then almost instantly I would be charmed back into it by some, like, cool bit of world building or a rad fight scene.
I echo that completely, and I am gonna nitpick just a little bit because the first 12 episodes has being strung along. Every time I would lose interest, they would reel me back in with some aspect until about episode 12-ish. I'm not sure on numbers, but past that point, there's a complete 180. It's like everything changes and there are very few lulls, and things really captivate and keep your attention.
It definitely picks up the pace at that point.
Yes.
But more things happen, but I think there's still a lot of that, like, oh, that's really dumb. Oh, that's really cool. Oh, that's really stupid. Oh, that's really awesome. Like 5 times an episode almost.
Well, okay. Maybe it's just that by the time I had gotten to where things start to ramp up, I'd gotten into the pattern of, oh, that's dumb. Oh, that's cool. And so you're kind of used to it by then, I guess.
That's fair. The fights themselves, too, are also kind of all over the place. Like, some of the fights are legitimately really fun to watch with really cool choreography and a good amount of tension, but a lot of them also end up feeling pretty samey. Like, it's all hand-to-hand combat, and outside of a couple specific examples, there's not that much variation in fighting styles. I'm pretty sure every single angel performs that same jump kick move at least once.
I think they definitely do. There was at one point, I realized that I had kind of just stopped watching and I was just listening. And I look up and it's during one of the earlier fights and it's like 4 frames of animation that are just on repeat like a GIF, and I just laughed.
Yeah, but also, again, that'll happen a lot, but then sometimes the animation goes fucking crazy and there's really cool fight choreography and you're like, whoa, this fucking rips actually.
No, absolutely. Because then you really get to the later fights, and even in some of the earlier ones, actually, those fight scenes are some of the most beautiful things that I've seen come out of this time period, which is saying something.
Not being hyperbolic, the final fight is incredible.
I would say even the 2 or 3 that precede it, like, I was floored at some of them.
I I do just wish, though, that there was more variation in the fighting styles. There's one point early on where you have a girl her angel fights with a weapon, and I was excited for that because I thought that would add variety. Turns out angels having weapons is actually against the rules, which I was really disappointed by, because having weapons and not it all just being hand-to-hand would have added so much more to the whole watch experience. There's one character who has a very distinct fighting style, and it's this like kung fu cat girl, and that was a cool fight because there was something specifically unique to it. Most of the other angels, barring a few specific examples, kind of all fight the same.
They really do. That was something I was disappointed in. Like, within the world, within this universe, it makes sense because the deuces are not necessarily martial arts masters or even shown to be interested in hand-to-hand combat outside of this, so them having the experience, thus them having the brainwaves to control, wouldn't be there. So in that, it's really realistic, but at the same time, I feel like this would have been a very cool place to showcase different martial arts. The first thing that came to mind as I was thinking about this was how Avatar uses different martial arts to show the different elements. I think having even the slightest hint of that in these fights would have made this insanely popular.
Now, I'm going to say a positive and a negative regarding the fights, and specifically regarding Misaki in the fights. I do really like Misaki's gimmick with the Angelic Layer battles, where she's kind of the Goku of the series, where her whole thing is that she will see a move be used once, and then she just adds that to her repertoire and makes that her thing. Like, she's got a photographic memory for people getting the shit kicked out of them. Both in terms of, like, she'll take moves and techniques from other players that she fought, but also, like, her friend Tamayo is really into martial arts. Actually, both her friends are into martial arts. And there's multiple times in the show where she'll see one of them use a martial arts move, and then by the end of the episode, she does it in the next Angelic Layer battle. That's fun. That's a really clever gimmick for your character to have.
I like that. I also, going back to my previous statement about the other deuces not knowing any, or not really participating in any martial arts, but the side characters was kind of funny, because it's such a wasted opportunity. But I do love that Misaki uses that to her advantage. And, she's 12. That's what 12-year-olds do. They co-opt and make it their own.
Now, the criticism that I will make regarding Misaki, the formula for almost every single fight, right up to almost the very end, is the exact same. It's Misaki doesn't feel confident, but halfway through the fight she gains confidence, but she'll lose that confidence by the start of the next episode. And that continues for, like, the whole fucking show.
Yep. I was experiencing fatigue from that real fast.
There's a couple of times it does feel justified, like after her first major loss, or when she knows she's about to go up against someone who's, like, very skilled and a big challenge, but it's every fucking fight.
Yep, the fatigue is there for sure. I feel like a little more emotional resonance in her would have gone a long, long way.
Now, I don't want to say that she doesn't have growth, because she does have growth, but it all happens outside of the ring, if that makes sense.
It does, which is, I'd say that's a different approach than the usual tournament fight anime. Would I be wrong, or would I be? I don't watch a lot of tournament anime.
No, definitely. Which, I don't know, maybe I'll go ahead and just straight up call this a criticism of this show, because typically a tournament series like this would try and better tie the emotional character growth of the characters to the fights to make it all seem a lot more connected. So I might just go ahead and straight up call that a criticism on this. Like, I think they could have done a lot better with having her, like, even though she does grow as the show goes on, and I do think that she has some nice character moments, it could have been tied in a lot better to the whole tournament thing.
I could say the same thing. I could say that I feel like Clamp maybe doesn't have the experience with this, and maybe they're trying to be subversive, maybe they're not, I'm not sure. But yeah, I would say that's a valid criticism.
I think this is the only shonen series that they ever did, and that might kind of be part of it.
It could be. Well, and when you have artists working in a completely different genre than they're used to, usually they'll bring what they're used to the genre, and we can see that be really successful. Like, I think a lot of the character interactions are very genuine and more typical of shoujo, but here, that growth that we see outside of the ring should be inside of the ring to make it more in aligned with what we expect from shonen.
This does kind of segue pretty well into another point I wanted to make. I think it was around like episode 7 or so that I started to realize that I needed to reframe my mindset regarding the show. I think my expectations were skewed initially because the first couple episodes had a handful of like weirdly sexual jokes. But this is 100% a kid show, like 5 to 10-year-olds, which
yes.
is obviously not to say that shows for children shouldn't be held to a certain standard, but we also need to have the right expectations for something like this.
I ended up feeling the exact same way, and I think I had the same epiphany around the same time, because I'm not used to watching shows for that age demographic for the most part, with some exception. So I'm not as familiar with the hallmarks of those expectations as I probably should be. So yeah, reframing the mindset there would have been a lot better, but there comes my number one big giant criticism that isn't voice acting. What are up with all of those jokes? It was exhausting.
It's only like the first few episodes, but it's weirdly often, and some of them, like, okay, if you just make like a silly haha pee-pee joke, the kids will laugh at a silly haha pee-pee joke, but they were actual like sex jokes.
Yeah.
And this is definitely for kids. It was weird.
It was
There's
a
no,
lot.
like, I feel like we need to be very clear, especially considering some of the other stuff we've covered on the show. This isn't what I would call a horny show. Like, there's no panty shots, none of the characters are sexualized, but it's just the comedy is weirdly adult. But again, also really only in the, like, first few episodes. You might get, like, 1 or 2 later on, but at a certain point it stops being a thing, to the point where I would catch myself trying to think back and like, did I imagine that? Was it really as bad as I'm remembering?
No, the hindsight there is there. I found myself feeling the same way. Like, they make so many jokes about this 12-year-old becoming a myriad of characters' wife because she cooks and cleans, and that was deeply uncomfortable. And then there's terrifying pedo jokes in there that I was not prepared for.
Yeah. Ichan is a character, to be sure.
Yeah.
The one I remember the strongest is when his subordinate at the company, there's a running gag where he's basically horribly abusing his subordinate, and anytime he makes even the slightest mistake, he subjects him to some kind of comedic punishment. And most of them are like silly gag comedy kind of stuff, like, oh, you gotta spend the rest of the day in this silly costume, you've gotta eat these gross noodles. But one of the first ones is, I'm going to put an octopus down your pants and have the octopus
just be in your pants.
It's weird.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It's very weird, and it does not match the rest of the tone. And again, that's what made it so hard for me to eventually realize, like, no, this is actually supposed to be a kid's show, and I should watch it with the expectations of a show targeted to children, because it did not feel like it was targeted to children at first.
No. Well, and anytime I talk about anime, especially with someone who's maybe not watched a lot or is new to the genre or anything like that, is the level of anime-ness. And I find myself exclusively using that term when talking about all the stuff that we cover on the Weeb years on this show. Because there's just this level of inappropriate, this level of sexy, this level of uncomfortable that is prevalent throughout a lot of these older shows, and some of them really take you out of it. This one being a gold star shining example of being super inappropriate and calling it comedy.
Yeah.
But then it totally disappears and everything's fine again. It's goofy. I don't know.
There are a couple of the gags where I really want to be generous and say it's more of a culture thing. Like the gag of a bunch of different characters saying like, oh, Misaki, when you grow up, you'll make a great wife. You should be my wife. Like, I want to chalk that up to just being like a kind of a cultural difference thing and not necessarily every other character in the show is a pedophile, but...
Well, okay, yeah, you don't get the sense that every other character is. You really only get the sense that Ichon is, which is disappointing because he's a fatherly figure at the beginning because he's guiding her through this new thing that she's never experienced before.
I don't think Ichon is a pedophile. I think the comedy is just strange.
I agree. I did not ever really get the sense that he was, other than when he does his little wiggle, wiggle, wiggle nonsense, which fortunately we only see 2 or 3 times.
Now, going back to the fights, halfway through the show, the fights do get a lot more interesting because they introduce this new technology that can simulate different terrain, like canyons and forests and such. And also, you get more frequent animation bumps during the fights in the second half, so that was nice.
Yes, it's a little bit night and day. I found myself wondering where in the world has this been the whole time? Because before that, there's nothing on the layer. It's just a surface that you put the angels in and they do their thing. And then this just completely changes the whole vibe. And the backgrounds become so much more immersive and interesting and varied, which I thought was very, very cool. It's not the same one over and over and over.
They do, the first couple of fights after they introduce the terrain technology, it is a lot of rocky canyons, I will say.
Fair.
Again, though, on the whole fluctuating quality thing, the halfway point is also when they start introducing the idea that different angels have special powers. The problem is that they didn't bake that into the mechanics from the start. They just decided that pure martial arts was boring, so now they have to backflip and make excuses why suddenly the characters are going Super Saiyan and making entity cubes and shit.
Well, and even from like a purely video game perspective, the things that they introduce they wouldn't have been jarring if they set it up as, oh, you haven't reached that level yet. You know, you've not gotten to the point where you're encountering these things, but there's never that conversation, which makes it feel, oh, we've got to make this more interesting so people don't lose interest, which I did not like, because that's exactly what it felt like.
See, the vibe that I got, especially when you combine this with that whole thing you were saying before of like, why weren't the fun terrains introduced to begin with? It makes it feel like this series was probably written a lot more seat of your pants than some other Clamp stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how much of a plan they initially had going in.
I'm not sure. But which would be funny because a lot of shonen manga are written a little bit more by the seat of your pants. They do the, oh no, what's going to happen next time? And then I think it was Akira Toriyama talking about Dragon Ball Z is like, well, I keep introducing these things and then I keep having to make it bigger and grander every time because I keep writing myself into a corner.
Oh yeah, Toriyama was notorious for he would only think one chapter ahead.
Yeah. So I wonder if maybe that's not the case. I do think they ended up pulling it off, but it was noticeable.
I don't know if I would say they pulled it off. I think a lot of it kind of falters. I might have that opinion though, because like you said, I have a lot more experience with these type of shows, so maybe maybe I'm making those comparisons a little more than you would, and I actually have better, more successful versions of this to compare it to.
See, going back to our earlier conversation, me not having that experience with this genre, I'm changing my answer from earlier. I think if this was put into a more shoujo magazine, more of a shoujo space, I think this being someone's first introduction to a shonen type story might work out better because, oh, I like these aspects of it. Now I'll go seek out media that have these aspects. And then, oh, look, those shonen stories do it even better. And so you get your progression through that genre just keeps getting better as you go, rather than like starting at the top and working your way down. So maybe I'm being a little optimistic there, but
I don't know. I see where you're coming from though. It's like this is maybe going to sound a lot more reductive than you're intending, but it's like, oh, here's Sally's first fight scene.
No, that's exactly what I'm saying. And maybe it would have been more successful if it had gone that direction in the marketing.
Maybe.
Because then if you go into another fighting thing, give me an example of a good one.
This is gonna come up later in the show, actually. But Gundam Build Fighters.
Gundam Build Fighters. Okay, so if I am talking to Sally and I say, oh, you should watch Gundam Build Fighters, it's kind of like Angelic Layer, but it's got this, and this. Should probably be cooler for it, yeah.
Yeah. Now, while I am going to complain about the introduction of the powers, and I think it could have been handled way better, I will say some of them are actually kind of clever. My favorite is Blanche, who can activate this like hyper mode at the cost of overheating, which is explained as her being from the first wave of angels, and that is actually a bug in their programming that her deuce turned into an advantage. That's really clever.
I love that. Is she our first introduction to powers?
Yes, yeah, her hyper mode is the first one. But then later ones, like, I don't remember who it was, but some of them, someone can just, like, make an energy cube that traps you in place, and I don't think they even attempt to explain what the fuck that was.
Oh, that was Wizard. They very...
Was that Wizard?
I
thought Wizard had the, like, force field thing, I thought.
He's got the, well, whatever it is, you disengage it with, like, static electricity or a charge or some kind. It was very hand-wavy science.
Yeah.
It was not satisfying.
Like, this isn't magic,
No.
but the term for this, you would just say, like, this is the series magic system. And even, like, again, that thing of, like, it feels like they wrote it by the seat of their pants, kind of. Even in the world of, like, that is usually what happens in shonen manga, most other series of this ilk would bake their magic system in much more successfully, much more early on.
The only example I even know of is the Hunter x Hunter magic system.
Which is one of the best in shonen anime and manga.
Right. But the way that they introduce it officially is like a 2-episode teaching montage, which put me to sleep. I hated that. But it's already built into the world. They're just explaining something that already exists. I think they could have used that example and built off of it and done their own version of it, but they clearly did not.
They could have been a lot more successful introducing it at like the halfway point the way they did. Mm-hmm. They just didn't do a good enough job explaining it.
Right.
There's also, again, giving it some more praise, there's also this part during the regionals where another player informs Misaki that Hikaru has a weakness that she'll need to overcome if she wants to win, which is something that looms over her for a good few episodes. And I kept waiting for it to be something really childish and lazy, but it was actually like, yeah, no, you're built for speed, but you lack physical power, and you've gotten surprisingly lucky in all of your matchups so far, but you can't do much about a defense-focused opponent. Like, that's some legit, like, fighting game strats.
Yeah, they went really strategic with it. I love that she just points it out. I thought that was an amazing show of that character, which was really cool. So I want to take a minute and roll it back to the very beginning and talk about how you would receive your angel or how you would buy your angel in universe. I think it is some of the most beautiful girl-coded thing ever. I have extensive notes on this first episode where she gets her angel and she goes through the entire process of making her name and picking out her hair and making her clothes and all that. But even before that, what did you think of hatching the egg?
If I'm being honest, initially I was terrified because the way that you get the angel out of the store, the way that you unpack it is it's in this like big plastic egg and it's floating in water. And the instructions are like, oh, make sure you open it in the bath. And there had already been 1 or 2 sex jokes. And so I was just terrified that we were going to get a sexy bath scene with Misaki.
I will echo a little bit of that terror.
Thankfully did not happen. Once I got over that fear, I thought it was very cute. I thought it was a neat gimmick, and I imagine that would be very fun as like a selling point of the toy in real life.
I agree. And I think the 90s, this is a big statement, I think the 90s had some of the most innovative toys ever, simply because of the technology we could use to make the toys. Mm-hmm. So going into like the early aughts and all that, being a child of the 90s, I remember all these silly gimmicks like, oh, you put Barbie in the water and her hair changes color, or oh, you put this little critter in the water and it does a thing. So seeing this toy that's marketed a little bit older, because we've got teenagers, young adults playing this game, harken back to stuff like that was really cool. It was really nostalgic for me. Mm-hmm. But even past that hatch the egg scene, I felt seen when Misaki is going through the shop and picking out what she wants, and and getting this connection with this little doll that she's going to spend, 24 episodes hanging out with and fighting with. But there was just something really intrinsic to my childhood, intrinsic to my experiences that made me really bond in this first episode with Misaki and Hikaru.
The setup of the whole Angelic Layer gimmick is just, it's really well done.
It really is.
Because also after she hatches and everything and she starts designing Hikaru, that's also when you get the thing that I was really into, which is her like planning out her stats and what kind of fighting style she wants to use. And again, it really showing that they actually did put some thought into how this would work as a real game. So from both sides of it, from both the I want to make a cute doll who's my friend and the I want to make a killing machine for sport. It's all just really successful.
Yes, it totally is. No, and like her sitting there, anytime a character sits in front of a laptop, you feel this way. Because there's another scene later on with the kindergartner, and she's doing a similar thing. And it's like, oh, they're playing a game. This is a game for them, so they're spending a lot of time investing themselves in this game, which is really fun.
Yeah. Like, I don't know. When I was a kid, you watch Beyblade, and the Beyblade toys are fun, but I never actually caught myself wishing that they would really sprout magical monsters to fight each other. Or, I don't know, I didn't really need the hologram technology of Yu-Gi-Oh! As I was playing the card game. But this, 100%, I so wish was a real thing.
Okay, I want the twofold. I want the real game, but I want the doll.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Throughout watching, my biggest thought, my biggest 2025 thought was, how in the world is this not some kind of gacha game now, later?
Oh, yeah.
Right? Because there's so much room for customization, there's so much room for introducing characters from different regions and all of this crazy stuff, and that stood out to me. This series has so much more potential that was never a thing.
There was a video that I found while I was doing research on this series. Shout out to Mary Love Mew, who did a very good, very well-researched video on YouTube of just the entire Angelic Layer merchandise scene and how shockingly small it is. But even getting outside of like dolls and such and just going on to like the Clamp website where you can get merchandise of all of the different Clamp properties like shirts and pins and all that kind of thing. There's not actually really anything that is just Angelic Layer. You will sometimes see Hikaru or Misaki, but they will only ever be on merchandise that is like all of the Clamp characters.
Oh no.
Like a shirt that has like Ray Earth and Chobits and like all of the properties on. It's just like a big group shot. There's not really anything that is just Angelic Layer.
I wonder why it's like that, and I really hope the reasoning isn't, oh, this was the ratings were low on this one, so we shouldn't put any effort into it. I hope it's not that.
I don't know. I do want to, real quick, I am going to show MaeMae a picture of the dolls, the only 2 dolls that exist for this. I want your live reaction to these.
Oh, I'm so excited. So happy that I didn't run into them before, so we can have this moment together. Aww. So, this is exactly what I expected to see. Aww. They're so precious. They're so mass market. But okay, when Misaki is making Hikaru in the first couple of episodes, and she's cutting her hair and all of this is more along the lines of what I expected to see. And then, oh, Hikaru is a precious little baby, and she looks great. This doll is way more like what I expected the 12-year-old to do with the doll. Okay, but they still look great.
Oh, yeah.
I would still consider owning one.
Unsurprisingly, these things are very expensive.
Oh, 100%.
Okay, MaeMae,
Mm-hmm.
I have bad news.
Oh, no.
It's time to talk about the mom.
Oh, I knew it was coming.
So, we mentioned at the start of the plot synopsis that Misaki has not seen her mom in 7 years. She has been gone. Misaki's mom is actually the world champion of Angelic Layer. She's also a terrible person.
There's not a single decision that she makes in this show that proves otherwise.
So, it's drip-fed to you throughout the first half of the show, and I wanted to give the show the benefit benefit of the doubt the whole time up until they just straight up said it. Because here's the thing, Misaki's mom is in a wheelchair. That's her big thing, is that she's in a wheelchair and she's the world champion of playing Angelic Layer. And they keep teasing like, oh, she hasn't seen Misaki in 7 years. She hasn't even sent her any letters or phone call or anything. Misaki just thinks that she's been too busy with work. She doesn't even know what her job is. She just thinks that mom's been too busy with work to see me and has some trauma about that she is having trouble processing. And they try and tease out like, oh, why hasn't the mom been in her life? What is the big secret? Why is she keeping herself away from Misaki? Why doesn't she want to see her? And I have in my notes multiple times, it's like, I want to believe that it's not going to be that she's ashamed of the fact that she's in a wheelchair, because that would be so stupid and so gross. It can't be that. There has to be something else going on. But no, she hasn't seen her fucking daughter in 7 years because she has some kind of degenerative disease that has put her in a wheelchair, and she's ashamed of it. What the fuck?
I'm honestly still reeling from the fact that that was her reasoning, because I understand having shame about a disability. Like, I get that. I understand not wanting to talk to other people about your disability. I understand not wanting to be around others. But this is your child.
Real quick, I hate that we have to do this, but reiterating for the people who might cause a fuck about this, you are disabled.
Yes.
You're allowed to say that.
I am. I think I said that at the beginning of the episode. But,
I know, I'm just making it very clear because unfortunately we probably have to clarify that.
No, that's fair. That's absolutely fair. But this is your child who is desperate for your attention, who is desperate for any scrap of love and attention that you could give her. And you don't write a letter, you don't leave a message, you just don't do anything. And like, on one hand, as an adult, not as a child, I understand. Because I understand, having a disability and being really ashamed of that and not wanting to confront it on any level at all. But to do this to a child.
And there's a big dramatic scene near the end where I don't think this is necessarily spoilers, because you can probably guess that this will happen. Eventually, Misaki does see her mom again, and she has like an actually, I think, very well written reaction to this. Like, the way that she reacts is very honest to probably how a child her age would react to everything. Like, she is distraught and upset and runs away and is confused and angry and sad all at once. And it's honestly one of the best moments of the show, is just Misaki trying to come into terms with the truth of the whole situation.
No, and I have this horrible line in my notes. It's a little bit funny. Because you watch the show as an adult, you know what's coming. Like, the foreshadowing couldn't be more blatantly obvious.
Mm-hmm.
But my note is, I hate cheering for a kid to be upset, but I am so relieved that she's having an appropriate reaction.
Yes, no, like, not even as a joke. Like, because again, we talk about like the quality fluctuating a lot, and sometimes you'll be upset and thinking this sucks, and other times you'll be like, oh, this is cool, this is great. Pretty much all of the points where you're upset is at the writing, and the writing just being dumb. And I did not have faith at all that this would go well. I was absolutely expecting that Misaki would meet her mom again and everything would be revealed, and I was fully prepared for some shitty message of like, always love your family, and the mom definitely deserves forgiveness, and that Misaki would just be okay with it. And I was expecting to be upset. But one of the few times where the writing actually surpassed my expectations, Misaki is upset, and it's really well done. It doesn't fully nail it, because eventually she calms down and does talk to her mom, and I'm torn because on the one hand, the mom does admit to like, I've done a shitty thing and I've been a terrible mom, but also I do think Misaki does forgive her a little fast.
She's a horrible parent, straight up. But I think on a more human level and less on like a parent level, I can understand. I can maybe even sympathize a little bit. Do I think that needed to be front and center in a kid's show? No.
Yeah, the fact that it's for the fact that this is for little children is weird.
Yeah, weird is the best word for that, I think.
However, continuing this theme of being simultaneously terrible and cool at the same time. At the same moment that we're finally told, like, yeah, no, it's because she's in a wheelchair, deal with it. We're also given the actually really awesome backstory about Angelic Layer,
Yeah.
the property. Because it turns out that Angelic Layer started as Misaki's mom is hired on to test out this experimental technology that's basically like mind-controlled prosthetics. Like, they'd be able to replace her legs with robot legs that she's able to control with her brain. It's not working out. They don't have enough funding. Ichon is actually the creator of Angelic Layer. He was the guy heading this research project to be able to make the mom walk again, and like anyone with like paralysis and inabilities like that. Like, he was heading the research of this technology. It's not getting progress fast enough. They're losing funding, but they're able to make it work on like a little doll scale person, this like mind control brainwave tech. And so he has the idea, hey, let's make this a toy and market it to children and use the profits from that to fund the medical research. That's really clever. That's good world building.
It was amazing because it sets the whole precedent for it. It explains, why Ichan is even there in the first place. Because why would this weirdo be hanging out with a little girl? Because he's not really that bad, but it's still an odd situation for them to be in.
They kind of present it like him being a wacky little weirdo is an act that he puts on.
Yeah.
For some reason. It's not really ever explained why he puts on the facade of some Looney Tunes motherfucker, but there's plenty of scenes that show that he's like a regular good human being.
Yep, and I wonder if maybe that goofy man persona is a little bit of a trope, because like really smart people are usually nerds, so maybe this is the weird nerdy thing that he can be a weird little man about.
Also, he's shipped really hard with Misaki's mom.
He's really into her.
So this is us moving on, but according to an interview that I found with Clam, the manga was actually intended to be much more of a comedy, and the anime, which they actually had very little involvement in, took things much more seriously. The whole bit about Misaki's mom abandoning her for such dumb reasons, I guess was actually played for comedy in the manga and wasn't supposed to be used for drama.
Ooh.
I intended to read the manga before recording. I didn't get around to it, so I can't speak to how successful or less gross and stupid this was, but that is definitely noteworthy.
That's startling, because I did the tiniest bit of research just simply so I would have all the characters' names in front of me, and a lot of the notes there were the differences between the manga and the anime, some of which were radically different, but what in the world is that?
Again, gonna do my best to give them the benefit of the doubt. I can kind of see a world where that works. Like, them, as a joke, it's like, the mom is acting all dramatic about this thing, and then every other character is like, bitch, it's not that deep, go see your child. Like, I could see that working in a comedic sense. It's hard to imagine because we have been giving the terrible, we're gonna play it for drama version, which does not work and is... Would you say that this is offensive? It feels offensive.
Yes. If it's played off for laughs, then yeah, I would probably call that offensive.
I mean how it is in the anime.
Oh,
where she's like, "Oh, I'm so ashamed of my disability." Like that feels. Ugh.
Well, the only thing I can really say is she never condemns other people. It's only a personal decision that she's made, and they never play it off as anything other than her personal decision that she's made. So I don't know if offensive necessarily, but definitely eyebrow raising.
I'll take that, yeah.
Now, if someone else, a wheelchair user, does say that's offensive, I will absolutely say I agree with you. So
yeah. Inadvertently tying this back into the episode that we did on Chobits once more. In that episode, we talked a little about how, despite its flaws, we think Chobits had enough merits that we would like to see it remade and just reworked a little bit to be a better version of itself. Do you think that there is a world where Angelic Layer could come back and see more success?
100% yes.
What do you think it would have to do differently?
So, first and foremost, I think it needs to decide what genre it's starting in and what elements are the most important to it, which means, to me, this is pretty squarely in shonen territory with the emotional aspects of a shoujo manga. So if we make those decisions, we need to play to those hallmarks of those tropes and things that we see. And then I think marketing those things is imperative.
Hey, let's actually give this thing a toy line this time.
Yeah, a toy line would save this because it's so, and you see it in Universe, it's so incredibly marketable. It's customizable. It's, you make this thing yours and you enjoy the media that it comes from. I think that's an incredibly attractive concept.
Speaking to what you said about deciding what genre it is and having the right target audience and everything, in no way am I going to pretend that this is not still a problem, but I do think that media is less gendered than it was in the 90s, at least to a certain extent.
I'm in agreement with you. And I mean less that it should be more gendered and more that it should play in the genre. It's so hard to word. Sorry.
You're fine. I think what I'm saying is I think that the climate that we are in now for children's media, I think this has a better chance of succeeding today than it did originally.
I wholeheartedly agree. In fact, if it was announced that this was coming out as a remake, I think, well, I would be over the moon excited.
Gosh, I sure am bored. My favorite podcast only uploads every other week, so all I can do until the next episode comes out is cry into my Haruko Haruhara body pillow.
Reverse those tears back into your eye holes, sad listener person.
We're here to solve all your sadness problems.
And also promote ourselves financially.
Oh my gravy! It's Beanie, Laurel, and MaeMae from the Weeb Years, my favorite anime podcast I was just crying about.
Silly listener person, didn't you know that the Weeb Years has a Patreon with tons of exclusive bonus content?
You get access to exclusive recordings and videos, read the notes we take while doing research,
Plus, you can get new episodes 3 days early. That makes you better than everyone else for 3 whole days.
Wow, that all sounds so cool. I wish I had the $100 a month it costs to access all those amazing extra goodies.
Silly listener person, you can access all that fantabulous bonus material for only $5 a month.
Sugoi!
Haha, never say that again.
Just go to patreon.com/theweebyears to cure all your boredom and sadness forever.
Sorry about your wall, by the way.
Alright, MaeMae, it's retro views time.
Ooh, it's the time where we check out old reviews that came out at the same time.
See what the people of then think about what we watched the now. That didn't make any sense. Now, totally just to celebrate your triumphant return to the podcast, and not at all just because I don't wanna, I'm gonna let you read the retro reviews this episode.
I can't wait.
Our first one is coming from Zach Birchke of Anime News Network. This is reviewing the first DVD that has the first 4 episodes.
They say, Studio Clamp, beloved by fans across the world, has invaded nearly every anime genre at this point, usually with resounding success. Angelic Layer is Clamp's entry into the collectible fighting monster genre, think Pokemon or Digimon, eschewing the monster part in favor of little humanoid dolls wearing spandex. The result is difficult to judge, coming across as a toy commercial for a toy you can't purchase. Yeah. There's very little drama during the battles, since it's never really clear what's at stake. We know Misaki is competing against someone for something, but since she can't be hurt, and the doll usually recovers instantly from the fight, watching Angelic Layer is a lot like watching 2 people play a fighting video game. It's highly interesting if you play the game yourself, but since nobody can actually play Angelic Layer, the fight scenes are completely skippable.
Okay, I'm gonna bring in my expertise as someone who has watched a lot of shows like this, a lot of like tournament battle and sports anime of a similar ilk. This is something that is definitely lacking from Angelic Layer, because typically in something like this, for one, you would have some reason for competing beyond just, I wanna? Like, we don't even have a clear idea of like, is there prize money? They never actually say.
They didn't. I hadn't even considered that there should be a prize, if that tells you how little I know about this genre.
Yeah, but then also, typically in something like this, unless it's Dragon Ball, unless it's the very first tournament arc in manga. You need something besides the tournament going on for there to be narrative interest. Like, oh, the big bad has kidnapped my sister, and if I don't win the tournament, he won't tell me where she is. Or one contestant at the tournament is secretly the villain, and we have to compete in order to suss out who they are. Like, there needs to be something else going on. There's ostensibly something else going on with Misaki wanting to fight the champion, but that's not much of a separate motivation. Getting to fight the champion is the end goal of any tournament. Realistically, what her goal is she eventually gets to meet her mom. She doesn't know that's her goal. The audience knows that's her goal, because she doesn't find out that her mom is the champion until the very last episode, or like near the very last episode.
Yeah, it's way there at the end. No, that really kind of puts in perspective that the entire time she's just playing to win, but there's nothing to win. She's not, I guess, you see that a little bit with the kindergartner, how she's playing to be the best, but with some of the other characters, you see that they're playing because they just love Angelic Layer so much. But it's a tournament, so...
Which I do think there is something to just playing it for the love of the game, and especially when you are taking this genre and trying to target it more towards girls. Again, if we're going by the stereotypes of like gender targeting and all that stuff, like that's a clever enough way to do it. Like, no, they are just playing for fun. That is the goal. I just don't know if they do a very good job of it. No. You could make the argument that where you're getting that extra drama and motivation is not actually from Misaki, but from all of the other characters, because pretty much, like, I kind of joked about it earlier, but basically every other character has some sad backstory that you learn throughout the course of their fight. Not all of them are very interesting, though, so that also doesn't really work.
No. Well, and Misaki herself is too much of a blank slate, so we don't have enough to grab on with her. We don't see her trying her best for any specific reason. She's just playing the game and accidentally winning.
If Misaki had learned early on that her mom was the champion, and, oh, mom doesn't want to see me, I'll see her, I'm gonna rise the ranks and force her to see me, that would have been leagues better.
That slaps, actually. I want that. I want, you're not gonna pay attention to me, now you are.
That would have been really interesting, actually.
Wait a minute. Isn't that Hunter x Hunter? Isn't that what Gon does? Hang on.
Oh, hey, let's ship Gon's dad with Misaki's mom.
Wait.
The terrible parent duo.
Oh my god.
Our next retro view is coming from Jason Bustard. Jason Bustard from Them Anime Reviews.
He says, the artwork is colorful, and the character designs, while typically clampish, are very well done. Especially fun are the different angels themselves, who, since they are created and controlled directly by their deuce, are nearly perfect reflections of their players' personalities. But what really pulls Angelic Layer together and makes it so great is the story of the game itself. Angelic Layer is not just the game that the children play, nor is it just about mecha and fighting and slapstick gags. It's a story of friendship and how through their common interest, even very different people can be friends. It's about courage and love and all the other things that make films about the triumph of the human spirit over adversity so enjoyable to watch. Angelic Layer is a must-see for any serious anime fan, no matter what genre you may prefer.
So what did you think of this review? Because this was a significantly more positive review than Zach had, or you and I had, I think.
I think it's a beautiful review. I really like the way this person writes. I think they touched on something that we didn't really mention, which is a shame because it's very important, that the angels are nearly perfect reflections of their players' personalities, which is another facet of those deep emotional layers that we get to see in Clamp's work. Mm-hmm. But I think the last sentence is really putting a cherry on top, or maybe even over sprinkling some sugar right there. What was it? It's about courage and love and all the other things that make films about the triumph of the human spirit over adversity so enjoyable to watch. I think you're sugarcoating it, man.
I do think maybe it's a little overly positive, but it does exemplify how, and I said it as a little like preemptive note before we started complaining a bunch, like for all of the problems of this show, there is a lot about it to like.
Truly, this was a fun watch. Like there is a lot about it to enjoy, even though I think it's just you and me. When we get together, we really critique our media hard. But it's still a good show. It still has a lot of heart. I don't think it's a triumph of the human spirit, but I think it's still got a lot of heart and still got a lot of connection and plenty to feel good about.
I agree. Now, at the very beginning of this recording, we mentioned how this is sort of a sequel to our Chobits review and having MaeMae here for it. The reason why I say that
Wait.
is that... Oh?
You said sequel when you should have said prequel.
What? Motherfucker. Yeah, so the reason why we make such a big deal about this is that not in the anime, but in the manga, Angelic Layer and Chobits are actually set in the same universe. Angelic Layer takes place before Chobits does. I don't know, again, unfortunately haven't read either of the manga, I just found some little tidbits. But I guess Ichan and Misaki's mom don't work out because he later marries Miss Hebia, the landlady, and invents Chobits.
Okay, if we just look at Ichan by himself and the women that he's interested in, he's kind of an intense lover because he makes world-changing systems for the women that he loves. Like, what is more romantic than that? Holy cow.
Another connection between Angelic Layer and Chobits that I thought was worth mentioning. Kaede, or Katie in the dub, the owner of the Angel Blanche, that is Minoru Kokubunji's dead sister.
Yep, the one that makes him the way he is.
Damn it, I'm so mad that apparently you knew this already, because I was really excited to tell you these things, and you'd be like, what the fuck?
I'm sorry, no, I had a very serious, oh no, what?
I have one last big talking point that I need to talk about before we can finish.
All right, hit me. What you got?
It has always been very popular to call Angelic Layer Beyblade for girls. That's the elevator pitch that you'll see people use a lot. This is Beyblade for girls. This is not Beyblade for girls. This is fucking Gundam Build Fighters.
Okay.
It is the exact same show. Gundam Build Fighters is advanced technology has been developed and it is used to bring toys that kids customize to life so that they can fight each other in tournaments.
What? What do you mean? That is the exact same thing.
It is the exact same thing. And there's even plot similarities. Like, to be fair, they are both, like, younger targeted shows of a long-running genre that has very specific, like, tropes and stuff. So you're gonna see a lot of overlap. But, like, okay, there is, in Angelic Layer, there's Ringo, the pop star who also plays the game. And then the very next episode is about, Misaki's next opponent cheating by secretly getting their hands on Hikaru and disabling her in a certain way. But despite that, Hikaru is still able to defeat them. Gundam Build Fighters, around the same point in the story, introduces a character who is a pop star who also plays the game, and she has a whole subplot where she gets her hands on the main kid's Gundam and sabotages it so that she can win, but he still is able to surpass her. It's the same fucking show.
Okay, well, I'm mad about that, but only because I didn't know about it sooner and I couldn't watch it sooner. That's exactly what I want. I'm gonna go, and I like Gundam, so this is great. What a fantastic thing to learn.
Hey, Gundam Build Fighters? Great. I adore Gundam Build Fighters. It was actually my introduction to the Gundam franchise, which is a weird way to go about it, but it's really, really good. Like, Gundam Build Fighters, all the complaints that we had about Angelic Layer and how it's sort of this is gonna sound super mean, but how it's sort of a failure of the genre, Gundam Build Fighters is legitimately one of the best examples of this, like, battle tournament, basically kind of a sports anime genre. It's great. Even if you've never seen Gundam before, that's fine. You please watch Gundam Build Fighters. It's amazing. I'm not done though.
Wait.
A number of the creative staff, like producer Masahiko Minami and the writer Ichiro Okuichi, who listeners might remember as the writer of Code Geass, just as a fun tidbit, they also worked on multiple Gundam projects. Neither of them were on Build Fighters specifically, but it's still hella suspicious.
I mean, as creatives, we should know that these groups of people are interacting, they're talking, they're being inspired by each other's works. That one's not surprising to me. What is surprising to me is you, the creative that is my friend, didn't tell me that it existed.
Oh, the Gundam Build Fighters existed?
Yeah!
Oh, we absolutely have to watch Build Fighters again. It's not something we can do a podcast episode on, sadly. It's way past the cutoff date, but we're definitely watching it just for funsies.
Yeah.
Now, final segment. Do we recommend this today? You, I think, kind of already gave your summation earlier.
I
but
always do.
Real quickly, yes or no, would you recommend this today?
I think, number one, it entirely depends on your age. And then number two, yeah, please watch it. It's cute, and I want more people to care about it now.
If only to, like, the incredibly minute potential that we could somehow raise enough of a following of this show that it gets a reboot or something. Even for that slimmest of chances, it is worth it.
Well, and I think if you are at all interested in, well, if you're interested in dolls, you should watch it. It's very cool from a doll collector perspective. If you want to feel nostalgia, even if you may not have watched it before, if you want to feel nostalgia for a lot of girlhood, I think it's worth a watch.
If you want to feel nostalgia for a certain era of anime and just like children's shows in general.
Yeah. If you enjoyed Chobits and you're looking for more client media, I think this one would be a great choice.
I'm not sure if I want to recommend this. I think maybe. I think my answer is maybe. This is 100% a kid's anime.
Yes.
And if you're someone who still enjoys watching stuff like Pokemon or Beyblade and just enjoys it for what it is, I think you'll have a surprisingly good time with this. At the same time, though, I would feel weird about recommending it to any actual children because of the occasional sex joke, and also the whole thing with the mom could potentially impart some bad lessons to kids, honestly.
Yes. It for its target audience, probably that's a no from me.
It's not a super strong recommendation, but I do think it's worth checking out.
Yeah. I think if you hit any of the markers that we mentioned, and you've got the time and you want to seek it out, yes. But otherwise, probably kind of skippable to anybody else.
Yeah. MaeMae, it's so nice to have you on the show again. It's so nice to know that you're going to be on the show more.
I'm so happy.
And if you would like more of us and more of the show in general, you can find us on Blue Sky at Weeb Years.
If you'd like to send in a listener question or give some suggestions, feedback, drawings of your angel OC, or whatever, we also have a mailbox, theweebyears@gmail.com.
Please send us your angel OCs. I would love that.
Please, I'm so excited. I'll show you mine.
I'll show you mine if you show me yours. There's our weirdly out of place sexual joke.
Ah, perfect.
Oh, if you liked spending this time with us, we would really appreciate it if you could help us grow. Share the podcast on social media, tell your anime-loving friends, leave a comment, a like, a review, all that good stuff that makes their numbers get bigger. We really like doing this, and the more people that listen, the more that we'll be able to keep doing this. Alright, let's go watch Gundam Build Fighters.
Oh my god, I will meet you there. Let's go.
Goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye, everybody.